What people are doing now on a more and more growing and commercial basis is to actually transform organic matter, which is decaying, into high-grade proteins and lipids, which are insects. So insects also in nature are very well suited to transform efficiently these kind of organics into their own body mass. This is what people do then in a commercial setting.
OK, so I suppose the idea then is that these maggots themselves, having eaten the waste, could then form some part of the food chain going forward. Would they then be eaten by other animals?
Yes, like in nature, insects in nature are also consumed by a lot of animals. For example, many bird species, also chickens, but also many fish species like trout and young salmon. They consume insects in the wild. So it's a very natural thing to use insects as animal feed.
I suppose some people might worry about the safety of this, though, because presumably then people would eat those chickens and the fish. And if maggots feed on sort of food waste that may be rotting and have sort of toxins in them, is there a danger at all that this could enter the food chain?
Well, we do need to be cautious around what we feed to the insects. So within the European Union, there's a lot of legislation around what can and what cannot be fed to farmed animals. And insects actually in the EU are also considered farmed animals, which means that we can feed a lot of different organics to them. So if you talk waste, then it's predominantly the fruit and vegetable, but it can also be milk and eggs. But for example, real waste like manure or slaughterhouse waste products cannot be used yet as feed for insects.
Is this the future for food production, do you think? The use of maggots and other sorts of insects, is this something we're going to be seeing more of?
For us, it's not a question. For us, it's a fact. We see rapidly increasing demand across Europe, but also globally, around locally produced proteins with a much better footprint, because this is the big issue that the industry faces. To grow an animal, you need proteins, and typically these proteins still come from either soy or they come from the oceans by catching wild fish. That is then used in, for example, aquaculture or in chicken diets. Now, we need to solve that issue by finding alternative proteins that are produced locally and applied locally, and ideally are really coming from a source that cannot be used differently. And this is exactly where insects can play a pivotal role in solving basically two issues in one. One being the protein shortage that is ever growing in the world. And the second one is the ever growing pile of organic leftovers that is caused by the growing population.